Thank you everyone. Let me just share my screen. So hello everyone, and very good afternoon. My name is Chan Wai, and I look after the end user computing portfolio at Amazon Web Services. I'm really super excited to be here to speak to all of you on this very timely and relevant topic around remote working, which I guess is the default work style for many of us right now. In today's webinar, I will take you through the business challenges and the prevailing trends that are affecting IT BPO companies, both from a workforce productivity and business continuity perspective. I'm sure some of you are facing similar challenges, so we'd like to share the pain with you and see how we could help. I will actually explain how AWS end-user computing services can tackle these challenges head-on. We will also share some real-world examples of how customers are keeping their workforce productive during the pandemic. We also have the privilege of inviting one of our clients who will be coming online later to share his journey and experiences in leveraging cloud-native desktop services. This will be followed by a solution demo and some call to actions. So let's get started. So today's IT BPO companies offer a very diverse and ever-expanding portfolio of services, from traditional contact centers, 3D animation, health information management, to software development and other back-office functions. Given the diversity and the increasing complexity of these services, the industry as a whole has to compete for the right talents and invest in the right tooling to meet the rising demand of the global market. In the light of the current pandemic, making the investment in the right end-user computing tools as a means to attract and retain both the talents and customers has never been more crucial. So over the last 12 months, IT BPO executives are telling us that the shifting customer expectation, along with external events like the global pandemic and the cyber attacks, have presented a unique set of challenges that they have to navigate. We will discuss some of the challenges today. So let's start with availability. As most of these companies are serving global customers 24/7, it is imperative that infrastructure they use to support their employees be highly available. This means not just being resilient from a solution perspective, but also making sure that the infrastructure is geographically located closest to the users. It could be an agent or developer, to ensure the lowest possible latencies to the data and apps they need to serve their client. And availability also means the ability to provide multi-language support. It could be Japanese, Korean, Spanish, right, for any clients across the globe. Next, agility. As traffic patterns and call volume can be highly variable and seasonal, as we've gone through Mother's Day, Singles Day, Father's Day, and there will obviously be surges in terms of the phone calls and requests. So IT BPO customers tell us that agility is truly foundational to their success, and the ability to dynamically scale the operations up and down in real time is no longer just a good to have. As the pandemic has forced many of our customers to work from home, like many of us do right now, agility also means being able to support the different kinds of working models, whether it's a centralized or decentralized, or whether the agents are working from home, in the office, or in hybrid work setting. Next, productivity. Workforce productivity is also top of mind among our IT BPO customers. They repeatedly tell us that they want to make sure that employees are fully empowered to serve their customers, irrespective of where they are, what network or device they use. However, not every agent or developer can shift to a remote work setup, given constraints associated with the device, the security, or the network infrastructure. Hence, it is important for the customers to have the right end-user computing environment to stay productive. Another consideration is employee satisfaction and well-being, which is not just linked to the overall end customer satisfaction, but also directly impacts staff turnover and bottom line. Next, security and compliance. And I think this one is pretty obvious to many of you. So with cyber attacks becoming more frequent during the pandemic, the heightened need for security and compliance has never been more pressing. And customers need to make sure that they can secure the data from being exfiltrated or stolen from the work environment. And this could be a case of, say, the employees accidentally misplacing the laptops, which get into the wrong hands, or this could be a malicious intent, whereby the endpoint devices get compromised by malware. And customers are also challenged to ensure that they are protecting their customers' PII data in compliance with regulatory requirements. So for example, many of the healthcare BPO providers are actually bounded by HIPAA, and compliance requirements can vary depending on the industry vertical they're serving or even where they're doing business. And finally, cost. We hear cost containment and optimization as a recurring challenge that customers have to contend with. And they're not just thinking about reducing the upfront IT infrastructure cost of the solution, but they're thinking more broadly about the cost of hiring, training, and retraining personnel to administer those solutions, as well as the cost of procuring and shipping equipment, especially across the archipelago. And given the bursty nature of the business demand, many customers also struggle to optimize the costs, as many of them are overpaying for the infrastructure to handle just the peak load, which means the infra remains underutilized most of the time. At the same time, they are also trying to free themselves from vendor lock-in, as well as onerous and complex licensing terms. So having gone through those challenges, let's shift gear to talk about the trends that are shaping the end-user computing landscape, and many of which are actually accelerated by the current pandemic. And suffice to say, the pandemic has led to a significant and sustained increase in remote working, and this actually has a profound impact on how customers are going to select and deploy end-user computing solutions in the coming years. So let's go through that. So you can see here, home offices and smaller distributed work site has replaced large physical office, with many looking to downsize their offices to save on real estate costs. And corporate devices are increasingly replaced by personal, consumer, or lightweight devices. And customers' remote connectivity strategy is also evolving from traditional VPN networking to more of an internet and cloud-enabled networking architecture. And managed services has also given way to self-service as the preferred service delivery mechanism. And many are slowly but surely seeing cloud as a strategic enabler or competitive advantage, and this is actually extending to the realm of end-user computing. According to reports from Gartner and Forrester, desktop as a service, or DaaS in short, has become the mainstream solution as more companies pivot away from traditional on-premise desktop computing model to a cloud-native end-user compute model. And cloud-native desktop computing has enabled companies to kind of move away from what used to be a very complex, very technology-centric implementation into something that is more human-centric, as customers can now dedicate more time to engage the end users and do less of what we call the non-core stuff. So in short, customers are looking for agility, simplicity, and flexibility in delivering the end-user compute services in the new normal. So with that as a backdrop, let me introduce AWS end-user computing services and explain how they can address some of the challenges I've described. So end-user computing represents a portfolio of cloud-native virtual desktop and application services, which comprise of Amazon Workspaces and Amazon AppStream 2.0. Amazon Workspaces is a fully managed, persistent cloud desktop that are targeted at named users who essentially need the same experience similar to that of a physical laptop, where they can have full control of the apps and the desktop settings. While AppStream caters to non-persistent desktop and application use cases that typically target concurrent users who generally access the same set of common applications say from a golden image, and it is actually like a kiosk experience. And with both of these services, AWS helps customers to eliminate the complexities of managing desktop infrastructure, whether it is virtual or physical, and takes over the heavy lifting work of building and operating those infrastructure, so customers like yourself can really focus on activities that directly generate business value. And these services are designed to be highly available, agile, secure, and most importantly, cost optimized. So in the next few slides, I'll explain how AWS EUC services have helped IT BPO companies across the globe to raise the bar on each of these areas. So let's go back to availability. So the 24/7 follow-the-sun nature of many of the BPO operations, coupled with the need for reliable global infrastructure, is raising the bar or the standard for what customers expect in terms of availability. So AWS EUC offers a global footprint of 14 regions. So regardless of where your users are located, they'll always be able to find the region that's close to them. And contact center, the BPO operation is mission critical in nature. So when we tell the customers that we offer a 99.9% uptime SLA that is financially backed, they see as a differentiated capability. We provide built-in redundancy where each AWS region is made up of multiple availability zones, or AZs. And each AZ is a cluster of discrete data centers that are architecturally designed for maximum resiliency. And in the rare instance, if the region is unavailable, we can initiate what we call a cross-region redirection to copy the desktop image to another region in minutes with no additional infrastructure investment. So this is really cool, right? So you don't actually need to set up a entirely different set of infrastructure or hardware just to support your DR requirements. We also provide multi-language support to cater to different customers group. So I want to kind of share with you a story here. So Innova International is a provider of online financial services to small businesses where they deploy Amazon workspaces to 600 contact center workers during COVID-19 with no downtime or disruption whatsoever. Their initial plan to extend their existing on-prem VPN solution to support new work-from-home users was quickly ruled out since it was facing both capacity and performance issue. Innova IT leveraged the Amazon image that contains a soft phone and a web browser to easily deploy workspaces to all their contact centers workers within just 1 week. Next, let's go back to agility. So AWS EUC services enable you to be more agile in a number of ways. First, through extensive API support, customers can easily build their own user lifecycle management workflow that can automate the desktop and application provisioning, for example, as part of an agent onboarding process. This workflow can be programmatically triggered with little or no IT intervention. And secondly, we make it very easy for you to scale up and down the desktop or application instance with just a few clicks of the button from the AWS Web Console. Our service allows you to provision Windows or Linux desktops and applications anywhere in the world, right? Literally in minutes and not days or weeks. And AWS EUC allows customers to kind of get away from the business of managing hardware or virtual desktop infrastructure. And equally compelling is the fact that you don't need a VPN connection to access the corporate data or the apps, which makes the solution even easier to scale rapidly. And customers can easily switch to bring your own device or BYOD model, where these virtual desktops and applications can be accessed on just about any devices. It could be a Windows PC, a Chromebook, Android tablet, iPads, MacBooks, or even via a simple web browser. And finally, AWS plays nicely with existing tools customers may have already deployed. In the environment, it could be your System Center, Active Directory, your Puppet, your IDP, which means you or your customers can continue to leverage the investment that you have already made and get up and running quickly. And for all this reason, we have seen customers like MRS BPO, who is a leading provider of accounts receivable and back office solutions, migrate 95% of their staff to workspaces in a span of just days and not weeks or months, in response to business needs to increase the contingent workforce in India as well as China. Now let's go back to talk about agents' productivity, which comes up as a recurring theme in our customers' conversations very frequently. So first, with AWS EUC, agents can access the virtual desktop's application from his or her favorite device of choice without necessarily being tethered to the corporate issued laptop or the corporate network. And many of us are working from home right now, so the ability to connect from any network becomes especially important as the network themselves can be highly unpredictable. And to that end, we have kind of worked backwards from our customers' needs and invented a brand new cloud-native streaming protocol called Workspace Streaming Protocol, or WSP. And with WSP, customers can now deliver high fidelity and consistent virtual desktop experience, even across global distances or over unreliable networks, which are often experienced by many customers in the Philippines and other parts of the region. In AWS, we also offer the broadest selection of instance type to accommodate just about every use case you could imagine, including graphics instances that are needed for, say, the 3D rendering or animation. I know there's a lot of 3D animation work being outsourced to the BPOs in the country. So this could be a very good use case. And also Linux desktop instance, which are popular among many of the software developers. Another important aspect of EUC service is the ability for the end users to do self-service. For instance, based on your project requirements and your IT policies, your users can dynamically upgrade their virtual desktop with additional compute, memory, and disk resources with just a few clicks of the button, with no IT intervention. And this could potentially bring down the number of support tickets and obviously the operational costs. I'll be able to demonstrate this later in the demo. And also, the users can now stay productive and engaged using any real-time audio-video conferencing software, be it Teams or WebEx or Zoom, right? And they can seamlessly leverage multi-monitor display, headset, printer, webcam features while using the AWS Virtual Desktop and applications. And finally, each user is dedicated to a virtual machine and never share that virtual machine with others. This means that performance and productivity is never affected by a rook or runaway process or unintended user actions. And we've seen customers like Grubhub, who is actually a food delivery platform provider, double down on BYOD for both the employees and contact center staff to improve the agility and employee satisfaction. And they were also able to maintain a high service level by accommodating real-time customers communication by having all these activities to be conducted through workspaces in a very secure fashion, obviously while working from home. Security. Let's talk about how EUC services make it easier for you to elevate your organization's security posture or staying compliant. At AWS, everything we do starts with security, and our EUC services are built on AWS Cloud, which has over 200 security certifications and is designed for the needs of the most security-focused customers. The first thing to note is that there's no data that physically reside on the end user device. Instead, the data and the applications are securely delivered as a pixel stream to the end users, irrespective of what device or the browser they're using, which makes the solution inherently secure. The data is encrypted in transit and at rest in the AWS cloud using an AES 256 encryption, which is kind of like the gold standard for encryption. And on top of all this, we give customers additional controls so they can easily implement their own data protection policies, such as the ability to restrict copy and paste, printing, and file downloads. We also support a number of other security features, such as certificate-based, smart card, multi-factor authentication, as well as IP-based conditional access to further meet your client's security requirements. And another challenge we consistently hear from IT BPO customers is around compliance, especially for regulated industries such as healthcare and insurance. So both workspaces and AppStream support a number of different out-of-the-box compliance certifications. For instance, our services are HIPAA, PCI DSS, GDPR compliant. We are also ISO 9007, SOC 123 compliant as well. In fact, security and compliance is a top driver for one of our customers. It's based in Korea. This is Hancock Corporation. They focuses on providing CRM solutions and contact center services to enterprise customers, and they have adopted workspaces to meet the Korean Information Security System or KISMS certification. Finally, let's focus on cost. While the upfront cost of the solution is important, what the customers really want is to be able to streamline and optimize the cost on a continuous basis based on the actual workload requirements, and doing so without compromising service quality. One of the biggest benefits of AWS end-user compute is that its pricing is fully transparent, and the customers truly pay for what they need when they need them, with convenient monthly or even hourly billing options. And there's no so-called minimum commitments, which many of the other vendors impose. Another thing is that AWS eliminates licensing complexity, as licensing terms often require annual commitments that really drive up the cost in the long run. And on the other hand, AWS has over the years reduced prices for various services by passing those savings back to the customers. We have also seen customers deploy BYOD, thin clients, or even repurpose older hardware with workspaces and AppStream in order to minimize or eliminate costly capital expenditure, and also to get rid of the complexity and the cost of device procurement, provisioning, and distribution. Because EUC services are managed services, we provide built-in functionality that allows you to easily save money without writing any codes. For example, we automatically hibernate the desktop fleets based on certain policies you set to help your customers to avoid charges when the instances are not in use. We can also enable real-time cost optimization by running tools like Workspace's Cost Optimizer that dynamically adjust the billing option based on the actual usage. Now, of course, you can make changes to the instance type or the running modes to save money. And case in point, our very own Amazon IT has been able to realize an annual saving as much as $17 million, $17 million every year by adopting workspaces and eliminating the needs for shipping out hundreds of thousands of laptops to all the contractors globally. And the entire global desktop operation is now managed by just 2 engineers. Since the inception of Amazon end-user computing services over 7 years ago, we have helped tens of thousands of customers in virtually every industry to adopt end-user computing. And we have hundreds of thousands of users using our solutions every day to stay productive. And our customer base spans MNCs such as Amazon, Facebook, Johnson & Johnson, and some of the local enterprises like Globe Telecom. I would like to kind of roll the video for 2 AWS customers, namely Maximus and Johnson & Johnson. And both of these customers have deployed workspaces at scale, from contact center agents to developers to even vaccine researchers. And they have reaped the same benefits I've described earlier on in the presentation. So I hope you will enjoy the videos. Can we roll the video?
Maximus is a company that is largely all about connecting citizens either at the state level or at the national level with a variety of health and human services. As you might imagine, as COVID has caused disruption across the country, a lot of our customers themselves are overwhelmed just trying to provide information, contact tracing, and resources that these folks need. And we were put in a position where we had to very quickly turn what were fixed call center facilities into completely virtual call center facilities. And that's where Amazon Workspaces came in. We were able to very quickly work with Amazon to take that section from our cloud-based telephony, embed it into an Amazon Workspace, and extend it out to at least 24,000 employees.
So J&J's mission is to, deliver transformative healthcare solutions that improve the lives of our patients and customers around the world. The impact that COVID has had on our workforce is probably very similar to what has occurred with most companies. Remote work became the new norm. 3 out of 4 people that were traditionally at the office became remote workers fairly overnight. With Workspaces, we're able to get people up within hours of them being onboarded, or if they have a physical issue with their PC, we are able to give them a virtual desktop in a couple of hours. So it's really a continuation, and in some of our core business areas where we've got vaccine preparedness activities going on. When it comes to remote work, there's no more secure remote access model than virtualization. So when we look at the security context of it, we prefer folks to be on a virtual desktop or a virtual app within AppStream.
One of the things that we're realizing now is that our options are quite a bit wider than we thought they were. Incorporating Amazon Workspaces gives us quite a bit of flexibility to really look at teams by task and figure out which ones of them are frankly capable of working from home indefinitely. And that's a big plus, both from a cost savings perspective, but also from an employee engagement and employee satisfaction perspective.
We have a commitment to our patients and customers to continue delivering innovation, and we can't have an impact what COVID-19 translated to in terms of everyone working remotely affect our ability to perform our critical jobs. And so our strategy and everything that we do is to continue to enable that critical work to happen uninterrupted.
Cool. So what I like to do is use these opportunities to introduce my guest, Mr. Red Bananas from Globe Telecom. Mr. Red is the head of workplace technology at Globe, and he's a certified usability analyst. Well, I didn't know that. So Red has been in the technology industry for 13 years. Wow, he looks very young. It's very youthful. So before joining Globe, he was in the F&B industry. Wow, and was instrumental in major business decisions. And Red currently leads the team that manages, implements internal employee services, and he also championed the global use of, Globe's use of global workspaces and Amazon Cloud, and of course, Amazon Workspace included. So with that, I would like to turn over to Red.
Thanks, Chan Wai. Good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I'm here to talk about basically what happened to us and how we were able to use AWS Workspaces in the quickest possible time last year. So as we know, everyone actually had a very, very hard time migrating immediately in the Philippines specifically. And when we were asked by the government to move to a workplace scenario to a work from home setup. And it was a challenge on our end, not just on the devices that we have, the logistics that we need to implement. Even we were actually thinking to have our own Amazon logistics wherein we deliver devices to the employees. But that was it's not going to cut it, because doing those things will have an impact to our daily operations, and we really had to think differently. So the challenge back then also was not just on the devices. We were also looking at our day-to-day operations specifically for our customers. And one of the particular things that was challenging was to implement some sort of a payment process system that will allow our customers to make out their payment an installment for 6 months. For example, if you have to pay now, before you have to pay now, and then since we want to help our customers, we gave them the ability to make the payment staggered. So instead of one time, we had to make them 6 months at least. And it was we wanted to quickly launch it because we know our customers are having financial difficulties as well during that time. Other than that, we were also looking at how do we now use our current infrastructure and our legacy systems to create that kind of scenario, given that we are at home. How do we now go into do we actually go into the office and build something, or like how do we make it accessible for our developers and our agents and our teams to be able to create that experience for our customers? given that there was an order from our CIO to provide that kind of an environment, we had to rethink. And fortunately, AWS at that time, reached out to us and say, Red, are you having issues on all of these things? I spoke to our account manager, and I told them, yes, we were having issues. And do you have a solution for it? And considering the licenses, the cost, the amount of time, and even the workload that we can actually provide, I was actually in doubt. Like, I had to research all of these things just to make sure that, before I go to our CIO and tell him that, we can do it, I had to talk to our developers too. So, moving on after, do our research, I was able to see that apparently you can build desktop as a service environment in a matter of minutes, instead of the usual spinning up servers or buying servers for all intents and purposes. We don't do that anymore. We are also, a full AWS company that we wanted to work with AWS, and I thought that it's just about servers and all. And when we had to go through all that processes, we realized that we can actually spin up end user environments, which is basically better experience than going to a console and do all of these things. Now, you will not believe me, but we were able to do it in 1-2 weeks time. I mean, 1 week for testing, and then the next week to be able to build those instances and run it in production. We started with 5 environments, and at that point in time as well, we're having issues with our agents and our developers, so we had to think differently. So we had to use RPA. So RPA, robotic process automation, with all those things that we have to build on top of it. We thought that we're not going to be able to do it on an AWS virtual desktop environment, which apparently we can. So after 2 weeks and presented to our management, we went from 5 to 200 bots, and now more. Actually, we're using a lot of workspaces to be able to run all of these legacy processes that we had to, because you cannot expect all the users to be able to, or rather agents and developers to be able to run all of these processes in one go. So we had to build something to augment their current workload, considering that also having issues moving from workplace to work from home setup. We were able to do so, and after a few months, we were running more than 200 workspaces, and we were surprised about the licenses that we were able to save, because apparently if you use the workspace, the licenses specifically for Windows and all of the other infrastructure are already embedded in the cost, and you can turn it off and turn it on if you don't need it anymore, or on if you need it, and off if you don't need it. So those things were a little bit surprising, because we didn't realize that it was that valuable for us until we were actually running it already. It saved us 2 months. Believe it or not, 2 months to get the devices. And right now, even if you look into buying laptops, it will be hard for you, because chipsets are becoming so rare and the demands are really high. And we had to think differently, and we were able to do so, save 2 months of building those laptops and infrastructure on the back end, and just use AWS Workspace. Next slide, please. I have an payment installment journey that probably can summarize what I mentioned earlier. But yeah, 2019, we're already using RPA bots, or using traditional desktop. By March 2020, we had to move to a work from home setup. By June 2020, this was the 2-week implementation that we've done. And lo and behold, by January 2021, even our internal teams are actually using AWS Desktop as a service to access internal systems and build or run reports with high GPU intensive reports, to be able to run those reports on an environment that technically you're just renting for a bit, and Once you get that information, you can share that to management already, and then turn off the actual environment. We did that, by the way, we did this with a team structure of just 5 people, and that's including me, because the crazy guy who wanted to disrupt ways of working, because I was already disrupted, and that was my my motivation there, that this COVID will not stop us from serving our customers. The RPA developers, they were just there to run whatever they have done already before, just to plug it in. And the crucial part there is an AWS engineer that actually helped us realize that, hey, this is how you do things in an end user, virtual end user compute setup. And the systems administrator, if you want it, you want to know how he helped, is because we actually created policies within our Active Directory setup to be able to integrate to our end user compute, which allows us to push policies that were existing already for our internal use case. So we did not, we didn't have to create it from ground up. We just had to allow that specific policy in our in the new end user environment, and seamlessly apply it to whether you're a bot or you're an actual developer, an agent within the globe, to be able to access that environment with the right security controls and accesses. And even implementing subsection of our network infrastructure within the AWS environment to be able to make sure that only specific applications will run on those specific AWS workspaces too. So just to quickly summarize what happened was, from the different channels, Globe customers can request for a 6 months payment installment for their accounts, and based on the rules that we've set, an agent or a bot can immediately act on it, or an agent will have to verify it and do the analysis and inform the bot that do this for our customer, and that specific bot does all of these things within the AWS workspaces. It actually connects to about 17 applications running within that environment and accessing it to our different legacy and modern infrastructure that we have, like AWS and the rest. I can probably give you stats so that it will be more realistic, in a sense that these requests actually went up to about 144 transactions. 1,440 rather, 1,440 transactions on one application per workspace environment. So imagine it can actually handle that load on one specific application, and one particular use case can reach up to 5 applications in one transaction, to be able to say split the payments for your let's say postpaid, or you have another prepaid plan, and you also have your Globe at Home setup. And afterwards, it will then message or send a message to the agent or the product team to be able to tell them that, hey, we've already completed for these specific users, and automatically inform the subscribers as well that their request for a 6 months payment installment plan has already been executed. You can actually see this in our website, our globe.com.ph website, and we also have an article about it, I think, on how we were able to help out our customers during that time. This is something that we've been doing since last year, and we are now expanding it even further to our Globe engineers and network engineers, so that they can serve more without going to the office, and actually having more security in terms of accessing our internal or network facilities. So yeah, that's about our journey, and probably you can ask more about it later during the panel session. I'd like to turn it back over to Chan Wai. Chan Wai, thank you for introducing me earlier, by the way, and let's go back to the presentation.
Cool, awesome. Just give me a second. Let me just share my screen again. Yeah, thanks, Red, for the really awesome case study. In fact, RPA is becoming a very popular use case where the workspaces can truly accelerate the RPA deployment for both what we call attended and unattended automation, while keeping the cost in check. So what I like to do is to kind of take you through another BPO customer story featuring ISIS Corp. So ISIS Corp is a BPO based in the Philippines and is actually part of a Standard Insurance. And they provide BPO services mainly to the US insurance clients. So from a business requirement perspective, they're looking to expand their operations and geographical coverage while finding ways to obviously minimize the OPEX. And obviously, they're also compelled to look at how to simplify their IT operation, which is obviously a priority for them as they expand. Of course, the other thing is, which is interesting, is they're also looking at ways to enable business continuity and work from home scenario, even before the COVID-19 event. So in terms of the learnings, so what they did is they basically deployed 600 workspaces to the agents. We use just internet-enabled zero clients, which are obviously cheaper than traditional PCs. And this basically helped reduce the overhead. And obviously, there's nothing to support on the zero client. There's no local OS to protect. So ISIS Corp was able to easily pivot to work from home during the pandemic. They basically didn't incur any disruption or downtime. And what they did, they basically used a soft phone within the workspaces to basically connect to the cloud-based IP telephony solution. And it completely switched from CapEx to OpEx. It basically drastically reduced also the lead time and overhead of setting up a VPN connection to all the remote BCP sites in the US. So right now, what they did is they basically just need to provision the workspaces in the region that they would like to deploy the desktops, and they could actually get up and running within just a few hours instead of the typical 3 weeks turnaround time. So nothing beats seeing the real thing. So I would like to take this opportunity to show you a quick demonstration of workspaces as well as AppStream 2.0. So let me just kind of run this CAN demo. So let's start with workspaces. So I'm running this demo from a MacBook, and all I need is a workspace client and internet connectivity. I'm ready to go. So I've entered my Active Directory credentials to authenticate against the directory service. And before I know it, the desktop is ready for use. The workspaces give you a full desktop experience. So what we did is we painted the menu, right, the startup menu and other UI elements to make it look exactly like Windows 10 desktop. So I'll launch PowerPoint, which you can obviously subscribe as part of our Office bundle for workspaces. I will do some editing and then save the file to my user volume, which is a D drive that comes with every workspaces. So the user volume is fully encrypted and snapshotted every 12 hours. It can be restored if required. I will next show you some user settings where you can basically dynamically reconfigure your workspaces bundle, as you can see here. So I'm using my performance bundle, and I can actually choose another bundle and rebuild the workspaces on my own. Of course, you can increase the the storage space if you like, if permission is given to you without any intervention from IT. You can also switch between different running modes. We have always on and auto stop. So always on allows you to have instant access to your desktop, while auto stop helps you to save costs if you're not using workspace frequently. So just to show you that the workspaces is persistent, I would disconnect from the workspaces and then reconnect again to show you that you can essentially continue from where you left off. So I'll reconnect back to my workspaces. It just takes a few seconds and you're able to view the PowerPoint file I've created. So that's the end of the workspace demo. So I'll kind of switch over to AppStream now. So I can actually use any HTML-enabled browser to connect to my AppStream instance. But before that, I will log into my AWS single sign-on or any IDP portal that your organization is using. So in this case, I'm using AWS single sign-on SSO. So once authenticated, I simply choose the AppStream stack to launch, and I will be presented with an application catalog, as you can see here, which contains all the desktop applications ready for streaming. So let me launch Zoom. So the good thing is it's capable of basically supporting all the, the top audio video conferencing software in the market. So I sign in using my username and password. And then I'll obviously launch and host a Zoom meeting, just like how I do it on a physical desktop. So I can enable my microphone through the AppStream session, so I can conduct voice call. I can type a chat message, just like how I do it on a physical laptop. So I'll disconnect. So next, I will go to the home folder to find a medical imagery file. So I will launch using a medical image viewer, in this case, DCOM. As this is the demo version, so I need to rerun it again. So you can see that it's a pretty high resolution imagery file that I'm actually looking at. So I can take some measurements and then save this to my home folder on AWS Cloud or in any designated on-prem location. Obviously, AppStream is non-persistent, so you need to save the file to some location. So you can see the file is successfully saved. So next, I will launch a Notepad. Again, I'll do some editing. And then I'll save it again to my home folder. Obviously, I can save it to my Google Drive or OneDrive if it's configured. Next, I will basically show you the home folder, and you can see that the file has been successfully saved. Okay. So I would like to show you some settings. So I can select the streaming mode to adjust the experience, either for responsiveness or quality, depending on the use case. And you can go to the regional settings and select the locale. There's different language that you can select from, and also the input methods. And this is good for customers who need multi-language support. So yep, that's it. So that's the end of the demo. So let me just move on, do a quick wrap up. So there's actually no one-size-fits-all strategy. So the individual EUC services is kind of designed or purpose-built to meet a very specific use case. So with Amazon Workspaces, we're talking about a persistent named desktop that are well-suited for software developers, remote or knowledge workers use case, or even an RPA use case, when obviously the users need to stay productive using a full persistent desktop, just like a physical laptop. And they get the same exact instance every time they log in, right? And then the data, the profiles, and the settings are automatically persisted across logging sessions. And with AppStream 2.0, we're talking about non-persistent instance that can be deployed either in a desktop or application streaming mode. It caters very well to BPO, contact center agents, or task worker use case, where users get a new instance created from a base image every time they logged in. And these are managed like a kiosk, right? And are deployed for multiple users who share the same image. And the good thing is you actually bill hourly for concurrent usage. So it's actually much more cost efficient. In most cases, we have seen customers deploy a hybrid of Amazon Workspaces and AppStream instances to address the different use cases and requirements that exist within the organization. So lastly, I just want to go through some call to actions. So I strongly encourage you to make an appointment with Globe, right? Obviously, your accounts team to really help you to access your capabilities and readiness in meeting your current and future end user compute needs. And there's never a better time to do so, especially when you're obviously planning for post-COVID recovery. So we can actually help you in terms of how, to understand the lay of the land and, help you to put up a plan. And the best way to evaluate the solution is to experience it. So you can easily conduct a very low risk experiment by setting up a POC environment within days to ensure that you're able to meet the technical bar set by your clients. And given the service is fully managed, you can easily scale out to meet the actual operational requirements without incurring a heavy CapEx or to go through a very extensive approval process. So with that, I would like to end my presentation. I hope you've gotten a lot of insights into what end user compute could do to help you stay relevant and help you stay productive during this very, very difficult time. So with that, I would like to turn over to Francis. Thank you.
Thank you, Chen Wai. Thank you for that very insightful presentation. Thank you, Red, as well. So some very interesting items that was mentioned specifically on the global chip shortage, which based on what I've been reading would last until first or second quarter of next year. And this is definitely where AWS's EUC or end user computing solutions, such as Workspaces and AppStream, can overcome all of these challenges. And these challenges were anywhere from availability to agility. I think a very popular one is agent productivity as well. Security and compliance. It was mentioned there were over 200 security certifications, and of course, no data is being stored at the customer. Everything is up there in the cloud. And finally, cost effectiveness, where everything is pay as you go. So you can basically, with the right financial management, everything could be potentially a lot lower, a lot cheaper than if you would do it yourself on premise. So there. So again, I would like to remind everyone that if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A box and we will answer them during the panel discussion. Make sure as well that you stay until the very end of this webinar to find out how you can get a 0917 electronic vouchers. All right, so our next speaker is a product and marketing veteran with over 15 years of experience in the telco industry. He has done everything from conceptualization, creation, execution, and communication of internet and telecom related initiatives such as cloud, data center, business applications, and cybersecurity. He currently leads Globe Business's segment portfolio management team, handling BPOs, both local and international service providers. Here with us tonight is Mr. Butch Velasquez. Butch, take it away.
Thank you, Marjo. I am all too familiar with the global chip crisis. I've been trying to buy a new graphics card. I'm sure some of the people in the audience are also in the same predicament. And so let me just share my screen. So again, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of our attendees. Maybe before I start or before I begin, I'd like to introduce or I'd like to tell you more about who segment portfolio management is, what exactly it is that we do. It's my group's responsibility to really understand your industry. And more than that, to bring that understanding to the different teams within Globe so that we may be able to serve you better. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's begin. So 450 days ago, we left this office. However, we came to work the following day to these offices. And it's really funny because so recently I've been talking to some of my high school classmates and through Zoom, asking how they are. So I asked one of them, so pare, sorry, pare, because, child of the 90s. So pare, how's work from home? How's work from home doing for you? And then he goes, what work from home? Work is home. And I guess for a lot of us, that's the reality nowadays. No? There's really no more delineation between what is work and what is personal life. I myself converted one of our bedrooms into my home office because, yeah, it's necessary. Even though the pandemic stopped us from going to our sites, to our physical buildings, work still has to go on. And so that's how it is. Okay. However, regardless of how we are doing our work, so we came from this really nice and clean offices to this, our work from home setups. We noticed that coming from the insights that you shared with us, you as our partners, as our customers shared with us, we found that companies in general employed 3 different models for their work from home setups. So the first one is what we're calling the individually managed devices. So basically what this is you allowed your employees to take home their laptops, their desktops, whatever devices they need to conduct their work outside the office, and set them up in their houses and to continue working. Now, the advantage of this is that it was very quick to set up because the equipment that they needed was already there. It was already existing. However, one of the disadvantages that you told us was, Globe, this was really just a knee-jerk reaction for us. We admit we were unprepared. So we sent our employees home with their laptops. However, in the next couple of weeks, we had to have them download the applications. And in some cases, some companies, they asked their employees to download something like 60 gigs worth of applications. So nod your head if you're one of those companies. Another problem with this individually managed devices is that the employee is tied to one location, where the laptop is, where the desktop is, or where the connectivity is. So now you have this problem that the employee may have to go home to his or her parents, may have to go to a dorm. It becomes very difficult for the employee to keep transporting their devices to and from locations. Okay. Third, in the long run, it became difficult for our customers. It was not sustainable because it became a headache supporting these employees who have their devices. So imagine if an employee, if his laptop breaks down, how does your IT team address that? How do they fix it? The employee will have to go to the office, or the IT team will have to send somebody to the home of the employee. So it became very difficult. So in the end, the upkeep became very considerable. No? It wasn't sustainable for them. So the second deployment model that our customers reported to us was they implemented VPN, or your remote access setup through VPN. So the advantage of this is that the employees, of course, now you don't have to download 60 gigs worth of application. The employees can easily access whatever work tools they have in the office via their VPN connection. So in terms of employee experience or productivity, very little is sacrificed because regardless of where they are, they were still using the same tools or the same applications as though they were in the confines of their offices. However, our partners, our customers, you reported to us that this wasn't without problems. No? First of all, you may have VPN connections to your servers, and then maybe for some of them, they failed to take into account that now a lot more people are trying to access remotely into the offices. So it created bottlenecks in terms of the connection, and in some cases, even the VPN, the servers that hosted the applications of the company slowed down because now you have more and more users trying to access the same sets of servers, the same applications, the same sets of data. So it became very problematic for these customers of ours. On top of that, I'm sure you're aware that regardless of what VPN application or VPN platform you're using, VPN introduces latency. So we came across customers who were dealing with latency-sensitive applications, yung mga financial applications, health applications, and those things. And they were running into this problem. I want my employee to keep working, to keep using these tools. However, the connectivity, the VPN is introducing latency. So it becomes very inefficient for us and for the employee. And finally, the third deployment model that you told us that you implemented was secure remote work. So this was applicable for the companies who started their cloudification, their cloud journeys, their digitalization journeys early on. They have a lot, if not most of their applications on the cloud that their employees can access. So regardless of where the employees are, they're still accessing the same things as though they were in the office. Yeah. Now, the problem with, or a problem that a lot of the customers who have reported to be doing this secure remote work already is that when they were starting their cloud journeys, they never took into account that 80, 90, or 100% of their workforce will be working remotely. So now they were running into issues of how do I scale my cloud platform? How do I provision for new licenses? How do I fire up new servers? How do I provision new desktops for my employees? Oh, but wait, my application, which I was using on-premise before, how do I migrate that to my cloud? Because it wasn't a priority back then. And so regardless of what deployment model the company adopted for work from home, people were still running into problems. Okay, and maybe just to highlight that, people are running into problems. What are While these companies, while we are grappling with what the perfect work from home deployment looks like, how are other companies doing it? This entire work from home thing. So Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg last May, declared that Facebook employees can work from home forever. However, hashtag walang forever. Okay. This working from home arrangement during the pandemic, it's not ideal. And it's not the healthy type of remote work. There were some employees who were having difficulties juggling their home responsibilities with their work responsibilities. And in fact, these employees were very desperate to come back to the office, maybe to take time off from crying kids or noisy streets or prying neighbors or what have you. Okay. On the other hand, Google said that they expect that 40% of their employees will still work remotely this coming 2021, or as they slowly shift to a hybrid work environment. So 60% will be reporting back on site, 40% are free to work anywhere, regardless if it's outside the campus, at home, or some coffee shop, or wherever. One of the things that Google noted was that even though Google is an advocate for working from home, the employees themselves want to at least sometimes go back to campus to have a sense of refreshing the corporate culture, the work culture of Google. Okay. Now, on the other hand, Apple, and I don't know if you saw this in the news. So Apple management, they recently declared that they will slowly reintegrate their employees back to their offices. However, an open letter was penned by Apple employees, essentially declaring that they do not want to go back to the office. And they make a very good case for it. They cited several advantages to working from home. The first one is diversity. So regardless of what race you are, what country you're from, it doesn't matter because, well, you're being judged based on your output. Okay. The second advantage that they cited for work from home is that it tears down the previously existing communications barrier. So it could be a language barrier, it could be a social barrier, because now when you're telecommuting, you have different ways of communicating, not just through speech. You have video, you have emails, you have instant messaging. So it minimizes things getting lost in translation. And finally, unlike other companies, Apple employees, they find that working from home provides them with better work-life balance. So for Apple, they see that working from home allows them to be employees at the same time parents. Employees at the same time students, because some Apple employees, they started taking online courses. Yeah. So for Apple employees, they were really adamant that they don't want to go back to work into the office. Okay. So as you can see, it's not just us who are figuring out what to do next regarding work from home. Having said that, despite the uncertainties of what the future workplace will look like, one thing to remember is that the productivity of our employees will still remain to be our priority. Okay? As company owners or even as an involved employee. So at the start of the pandemic, like what I said, we spoke with you, we spoke with some of you, and you gave us 3 conditions that you believe are necessary in maintaining employee productivity as we work from home or work outside the office. The first one is I need good internet connection. Yan. It has to be fast, it has to be stable, it has to be effective. Yan. The second is my work tools should be able to support remote operations. Yan. Okay. My tools should not be tied down to the hardware. It should be disassociated from my devices in order for me to continue working regardless of where I am. The third, since my employees are handling sensitive information, these whatever tools or whatever solution that Globe should discuss with me should take this into account, that I am handling sensitive information, not just of my company, but also of the companies that I service, especially true with BPOs, right? We have a lot of sensitive information that is not technically or that is not organically ours, but remains a property of our customers. So that was during last year when we spoke to you. This year, we came back to you and we asked you the same thing. So has anything changed? Okay. So we wanted to see if your priorities have changed or have evolved. Unsurprisingly, they haven't. Okay. But wait, there's more. Not only have the priorities not changed, but like mushrooms, a new set of priorities have been added. So the first new priority is that because lockdowns can be declared at any time, my employees keep having to transport their equipment to and from the office. And this has to be done at a moment's notice. Yeah. So we have to fix the shortcomings of my current work from home setup. All right. The second new priority is that my employees' productivity is declining. This is what he told us. My employees' productivity is declining because of technological issues and challenges. Maybe applications that I need for my operations are not supported by my current environment, or maybe in order for me to be more competitive, I have to look at new technologies that I currently don't support right now. And speaking of technologies that I don't support, so the third new priority, you told us that you don't know, or nobody knows how long this situation is going to last. So I don't know how I should prioritize my coming ICT investments. Yeah. A lot of the customers are looking for guidance. Okay, the situation is very fluid. Globe, what should we do? Where should we go? Yeah, what should we be spending on or investing in? Okay. So to that end, we decided that, hey, there must be a better way for our customers and even in Globe, there must be a better way for us to be doing work from home. That's why we're coming out with our remote work at scale solution, or our work anywhere solution. Note I said work anywhere because more and more we're seeing that employees are not simply working at their households anymore. With the relaxing of the quarantine, the declaration of GCQ, more and more employees are venturing out of their households and working in coffee shops, your local Starbucks. As a matter of fact, there were instances where I myself, I was working at a park near the house. Yeah, because I need fresh air. We've been cooped up in our houses for the last 450 days. Yeah. So we took all of those concerns that you shared with us into account. That's why in the coming days, your account manager, your Globe account manager, will be discussing with you our Work Anywhere solution. So we designed our Work Anywhere solution to be flexible, regardless of where the employee is. So the idea behind Work Anywhere solution is that regardless of where you're working, be it at home, be it in a coffee shop, or even if you're back into office, okay, you will have access to the same set of tools covered by the same security. As Chanwai demonstrated earlier, regardless of where you are, if you're accessing a virtual desktop, you will have the same tools, regardless of what device you're using to access that desktop. And therefore, the experience, the employee experience, will still be the same. So regardless of the location, the experience will be seamless. Okay? So our remote work at scale, or our work anywhere solution, combines network connectivity, work tools such as your virtual desktops, as well as security to keep your information secure and confidential. So these are just some of the benefits. No? Stable connectivity. We will be providing you with choices of connectivity options, be it fixed or wireless broadband. Secure and encrypted VDI. AWS itself has more security certifications than maybe even dedicated security companies. Low latency security. Again, your files are being scanned as you keep working, so there's really no you shouldn't be experiencing any slowdowns or lags as you work. And finally, simple to deploy and to manage. So unlike that scenario that I described earlier on, companies at the start of the pandemic asking their employees to download 60 gigs worth of data and applications, this one, you can simply have a one desktop as your template and distribute that to your employees. Hence, you can standardize on the work tools that every employee is using. So it becomes much easier to support as well later down the road. Okay. So finally, I am reminded of an anecdote that I heard from a lot of business leaders last year. No? And it goes, never let a good crisis go to waste. Okay. It may sound ironic, I know. However, there's a grain of truth to it naman. So for a lot of companies, they admit that the pandemic has hastened their digitalization or digital transformation. It gave them that necessary push to actually start it. You know? For a lot of companies, they were planning it. However, the pandemic actualized it for them. So given that, we at Globe, we see secure remote work at scale as a possible catalyst for the digital transformation for a lot of companies. Because once you've digitized how your employees work, you can now direct your attention into digitalizing every aspect or every employee touch point of your business, such as your processes, your forms, etc. So what comes after Work Anywhere solution? Or what comes after starting your digital transformation with our Work Anywhere solution? After that, you can now focus on digitizing the other areas of your business, such as your operations through IoT and automation. Yeah, so digitalizing your different business functions. After that, once you've effectively transformed every aspect of your business, you can start leveraging on big data as well. Since you've already digitized everything, your data sets can be tied into your processes, making them more readily actionable. You can start leveraging on automation. You can start leveraging on intelligent customer service. So it's really leveling up the capabilities of your company. And it all starts with Work Anywhere solution. You've digitalized your employee. Now do the same for the rest of your company. Okay, clear so far? So, in closing, let me say that we at Globe are very grateful that you are with us here today. I encourage you to learn from our partners, such as AWS, learn from our successes, such as what was shared by Red, and even more than that, learn from the mistakes that we've made so that you won't have to make the same mistakes. So no matter what your present work from home or work from anywhere situation is, Globe will always be ready to assist you. And that's a commitment. So if you're interested in anything that Chanwai, Red, or I shared with you today, please let your account manager know. and we'll be happy to have that conversation with you. With that, thank you, and Arjo, back to you.
Thank you for that, for another set of wonderful insights, Butch. It's definitely interesting and exciting to see how the IT BPO landscape has changed and how it can still evolve with the help of the latest technologies on the market. So, of course, we'd like to take this conversation further, so we will now go into our panel discussion. We received a couple of questions during the presentation. I've taken the liberty of categorizing them so that we're discussing them into proper chunks. All right, topic chunks. So let us all welcome back Mr. Chanwai Tong of AWS, Head of Workplace Technology, Mr. Red Bernaldez, and Segment Portfolio Head, Mr. Butch Velasquez. And here to join them as well is Mr. Ernie Imperial, Head of Business Consulting, Solutions and Project Management Teams at Globe Business. Ernie has been in the industry for almost 30 years now. And before joining Globe this year, he was the Chief Information Officer of ABS-CBN and Head of IT at Meralco. He has also led transformation programs in the utilities and financial BPO industries. Now, if you have any questions, additional questions during the panel discussion, of course, feel free to spam that Q&A box below. All right. Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing today?
Good.
Right.
I noticed
All right.
the picture, my picture at least in this profile. That was if we're talking about work from home, that was a haircut from home.
I think our hair has grown quite a bit because of the pandemic and the limited access that we have, right? All right, so I guess there's no other way to do this but to kick things off with the very first question. And sometimes I will address certain people. Sometimes anyone is free to answer. I guess this first one is free for all. There was a question here that was posted earlier. What is the minimum downstream and upstream requirements to have a very good user experience?
Who would like to take the first stab?
Well, I
Yeah.
can answer that from a practical. Oh, Chanwai, maybe.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Red, go ahead. No worries. Yep.
Because okay, so quick background for me. So I was the CIO of a media company, and prior to that, CIO of a utility. The answer I would normally give is when they ask me this is the faster you can go, the better. Normally, because if you can afford the fastest speed that you can, go for it, because it's not like when you buy 25 megabytes or 50 megabytes of speed, it's going to be pure. You have, of course, the ping issues. You have latency. You have jitter. There's so many things to consider. Sometimes I actually discovered this crazy thing. I discovered that my mobile, my portable phone at 2.4 gigahertz was fiddling around with my router at 2.4 gigahertz. Whenever it rang, it started doing crazy things. So those are the little things that you don't see. So as general rule, I would probably say, hey, whatever you can afford, the faster the better. Especially if your kids go Netflix, right? Chanwai, but I'll leave the technical stuff to you.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, so well, one of the biggest advantage, over a VPN solution is the fact that only the pixels, only the screen changes get transmitted over the wire. I'm sure Red is very familiar with that. So so effectively, you're basically just streaming pixels instead of lock, stock, barrel, the entire data is sent across the wire. So I think that's pretty bandwidth efficient. That's one. And then secondly, I guess from a AWS perspective, the good thing is we don't charge the customers for ingress traffic. So any traffic that comes into AWS it's effectively free. So and then for egress traffic, it depends, right? Depending on the amount, the data you're gonna upload to the internet. But I would say that generally for all intent purpose, the egress traffic is usually kept within like 5% of the overall running costs. So I would say that it's very, very affordable, very cost effective. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I just like to echo what Ernie mentioned earlier. Like, it's not really the down speed or the upload speed. It's actually the latency, and that's the biggest thing that I was impressed about the Workspace solution. Actually, is that it sits close to our AWS infrastructure as well. So it means that if the transaction ongoing stays in that environment, and then it's just reviewing the activity that's done in that space. And if if you are actually familiar with how games work, like for example, there's a lot of online games right now, like even if Mobile Legends, for example, or whatever. Like, it's not about whether you have 5 Mbps or you have 25 Mbps. It's about the latency during the time that changes between the movement from left to the right. It works the same way. It's actually a streaming experience, but more on the latency and not on the bandwidth or upstream or download stream.
Yeah. If I may add, although I'm probably the least technical person in this group. No, so I was talking to again, whatever input that I provide, it's thanks to our customers, no? So thank you guys for everybody here in the attending the Zoom webinar. So I was talking to some of our customers, and it really depends on what they're trying to accomplish. Because for BPOs, your work could either be text-based, you're sending and receiving documents. It could be voice-based. So your inbound or outbound calls, or it could be video based. Especially for BPOs who have accounts such as Facebook or YouTube. And in those scenarios, your minimum downstream or even upstream depends on what exactly you want to accomplish. Video-based BPOs or video-based transactions, they're the heaviest by far. Okay. However, we have reports of customers who have good experience even on just 5 Mbps download or downstream. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I got a little bit geeky and did some Googling myself. Again, it depends on your use case, as Butch mentioned. But there's a white paper on a minimum, assuming the most basic of tasks of 1 Mbps. But of course, again, it all depends on latency. And I've done a demo of Workspaces myself, and I was able to demo it to a customer just using my personal mobile hotspot. So that worked pretty well. All right. So, Butch, since you were the last one to ask, and we're still on the topic of network and security, before we move on to the other topics, what are Globe's plans to improve work from home infrastructure? Because that was the question previously, especially for our employees who are working remotely.
Thank you for the question. On to you, Ernie.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Sige, I'll answer the question. So yes, we're talking about work from home, or actually I would want to shy away from the term work from home, because nowadays it's not working from home anymore. It's working from anywhere. So work from anywhere. So what are our plans in order to improve the user experience of working from anywhere? Well, I'm sure that some of you may have attended the sessions conducted by the BPO organizations, such as IBPAP, CCAP, etc. And you've heard our competitors. They keep highlighting that no, in order for you to work effectively outside the office, you have to have connectivity. You have to have really fast internet and those things. And in fact, the head of one of our competitors said there's an article of him saying that if the surveying body were only to consider their company, the Philippines internet would jump by 15 points or 15 points higher. To which our CEO, Ernest, said that it's not about speed. It's not always about speed. It's about the experience. That's why, unlike our competitors who will sell you their connectivity as work from home, or this is work from home, but it's only just really increased bandwidth. It's about the working experience or the employee experience. That's why, in order to improve the experience, we have these tools like VDI, we have cybersecurity, and then in the future, we're also going to be releasing new tools to add to that portfolio, such as new connectivity options, so that you'll have more options regardless of whether you're working from one location or multiple locations. That's one. We'll be adding more cybersecurity products and partners, so that regardless of how specialized or how niche what you're doing is, you're always covered. In terms of productivity, we're always bundling our business application services. We're always highlighting the benefits of using cloud tools. So it's something that we're always continuously working on. What more can we give to our customers?
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks for your. Thanks for everyone's inputs. I guess the next question now is more related to security and privacy. Given the, I think this can be addressed to Red. Given the sensitive nature of payments processing, how secure is AWS Workspaces?
So as I mentioned earlier, that AWS actually Workspaces sits beside or within the AWS environment. No data actually is moving out of our infrastructure. The second is that AWS Workspaces is actually some sort of virtualized environment that doesn't get data from our applications, which also resides within our AWS environment, and some of them are actually within our data centers. That it's just accessing it to a web portal or through a browser-based implementation. And the RPA that we actually did was just to run across all those various web portals for our internal services. So we took into consideration how things are being automatically provisioned and who can actually access those workflows and all those automated steps, or the thing that the RPA actually does. Another thing is that within that specific space, as I mentioned earlier as well, it's also segmented within each and every. You can actually do this. You can actually segment per workspace or a cluster of workspace, depending on which systems they will be accessing. So from the 7 layers of network, actually, we were able to consider all of the security network rather. We were able to consider all of these, and at the same time look into how our monitoring, even the way they do, the bots are actually running the actual task. We don't allow our developers or anyone, after setting up the whole infrastructure, to go into that actual environment, but rather they monitor it from a different console, which we actually use in combination with AWS solutions such as Cloud Health and all the other services that's available for us. So yeah, there was no any other access except for the within AWS environment.
I guess it's about having the right policies and access permissions, giving the right access to the right people.
Yep.
Right. Thank you.
Yep.
And maybe Chanwai, sorry.
Yeah, if I may to add, yeah, definitely cloud security at AWS obviously is a higher security. We call it job 1 or job 0 for us. I guess from a workspace perspective, we inherit all the security best practices and capabilities that AWS already offer. Like security group, NACO, and all that. I think Brad should be very familiar with. So I guess from user authentication to access control, data encryption, data protection, monitoring, auditing. So the end is really end-to-end, capabilities that we're offering. And I just want to highlight one point, right? So AWS is responsible for security of the cloud. That is responsible. We put in all the guardrails to ensure that the AWS infrastructure or the workspaces is secure. That's number 1. Number 2, the customer is responsible for security in the cloud. Like what Brett has mentioned, they have to basically put in all the additional security controls in accordance to the security posture they would like to construct. So I think this is sort of a partnership where there's sort of a delineation of responsibility where we come in to make sure that we take away all these additional overhead of managing the security of the infrastructure and leave customers like Globe to basically look after their own security controls, right? And then from a compliance perspective, like I mentioned earlier on, we actually have the most number of compliance certifications. So I think that's really something that that's testament to our effort to ensure that security is paramount, yeah, for us.
I think there was a follow-up question there regarding the types of encryptions that we use, and you mentioned something with regards to AES 256 a few minutes back. Yeah. Yes.
So essentially, there are different traffic. So obviously the communication traffic or the authentication traffic is encrypted using SSL or TLS. And then the data is actually encrypted using AES 256. Of course, you can actually choose a lower encryption key. So yes, so it's basically, the data itself at rest, in transit, the snapshot, all encrypted end-to-end using AES 256. Yeah, which is obviously is a military-grade encryption algorithm. Yeah.
Thank you. So moving on from network and security, probably let's now look at the competition, which I guess everybody might have dabbled into virtual desktops in one shape or form. So maybe Chanwai, maybe Red, you guys can throw a bit of, and maybe Ernie as well. How do you differentiate AWS workspaces to other desktop as a service
Sure.
options, such
Yeah.
as Azure Virtual Desktop, which was recently renamed, VMware Horizon Desktop as a Service, and maybe Citrix as well?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Loaded
So first of
question.
all, I like to qualify that we don't usually talk about our competitors, right, as Amazonians. So I rather discuss why customers are using, that use other cloud hosted VDI solution are either migrating or evaluating our cloud native solution. First of all, I think Workspaces is a proven cloud native service that can scale rapidly. I think that's obviously this saying that there's no compression algorithm for experience. So we continue, over the last 7 years to earn trust with our customers by working backwards from their needs. And obviously we have actually incorporated a lot of their feedbacks into our product roadmap, right? So essentially we have been innovating on their behalf, and we have actually unleashed a huge amount of innovation over the last few years. And more recently, we roll out the bi-directional video support. Obviously, there's a lot of customers working from home, so they need that capability. So and while we see the partnership of our customers as a journey, right? And we continue to double down to help them on cost optimization. It's never a one-off kind of a transaction where, we basically go in, deploy our customer success manager, our solution architect to work with them to say, hey, how we can help you do better. How we can make this operations more cost effective, right? So the cost optimization is a huge team for us. When it comes to running services on the cloud. So I think it's really around how basically we go about approaching our customers, as opposed to comparing quotations or features and functionalities, because that's never going to end. By the end of the day, it's really the trust between us and the customer, right? We know where they're going, we know where they're heading towards, we know how to get there, how to help them to get there. I think that's really that level of trust and that partnership that enable us to continue to grow this business, right? So it's not like we don't take that relationship for granted, right? So this is really kind of hard earned over the years. We kind of build up that momentum. So Globe Telecom is a great example, right? Where obviously we have this this journey. We traveled this journey together for the last many years. So I think that's where I'm coming from. Yeah.
So do you want me to answer that as well, Francis?
Yeah, sure thing. Go ahead.
On our end, actually, we use both. To be honest with you, we have Citrix and we also have AWS. And I think for me, it's about how you use the technology at a given scenario or a given set of requirements. It was really a challenge for us as well during that time, because you only have 1 week to, not only 1 week, more of about 2 to 3 weeks to really assess everything and test it out in 1 week and try to get the POC running. And we tried it out as well with our with all the other technologies that we have right at that time. However, we kind of wanted to see whether at a given point in time, is it really valuable to go for AWS in the minimum with a speed that they were saying that they can actually do 5 minutes, roll out and the rest. And we tried it out, and it was actually beneficial for us on that time. So we decided to go there, and we are still using the Citrix as well. But the use case that we have at that point in time, and the use cases that we have right now, which basically needs access within the AWS environment, actually merits a good score on our end that made us decide to move to that AWS desktop as a service. And that's just being realistic here, that you really have to look into the cost, the benefit, and all the things that you will be receiving on choosing a solution. And for us, because we have environments in AWS, it was really perfect at that time. Quickly, rapid implementation, and with lots of security in place.
Yeah, good point. Maybe just to wrap it up. Yeah, so I think it goes back to the design tenets that I've covered during my presentation around availability, reliability, cost optimization, pay as you go, simplicity, because you could, like you said, you can spin up workspaces within minutes. So I think it's just go back to those few key core characteristics of design tenets that really differentiate us from our competition. Yeah.
All right. So one more question for Ernie this time. In hindsight, if these end user computing services were not available before, would you implement it in the previous roles that you've worked with? Why or why not?
Oh, well, the answer is a resounding yes, but I'd like to answer more as a story. So when we got into lockdown last year, I mean, everybody freaked out, right? So the first instincts of maybe some of us, I mean, maybe there's probably some CIOs in the audience, IT heads. Oh my God, what do we do? Let's send people home. Let's bring their laptops. Oh, by the way, we have 30% laptops, 70% desktops. Oh no, what do we do? Let's send the desktops home. Oh, by the way, they need big chairs too. So we just even sent the chairs. So even in that space, it was already a nightmare in terms of logistics, right? And then, so some people said, no, we can't bring home the desktops. They're too big. Let's buy laptops. And interestingly, there was a big shortage of laptops during that time. So we were forced to, look for suppliers all over the place. And the only laptops that were left for sale were actually consumer grade. Now, for the IT folks out there for operations, what would the headache be? A golden image, right? So you have a golden image on your corporate laptop, then suddenly you buy consumer laptops. It's just gonna drive you crazy. So aside from that, my InfoSec guy was just screaming, "We can't do that! We can't do that!" So but I have to allow people to go BYOD. Otherwise, we'll be waiting for months before the shipments come in. So it was a perfect storm. Now, to answer your question, RJ, of course, it would make things much simpler. Simpler. I would have less tickets. My service desk guys will be overloaded. I actually had to increase my desk side support because people were freaking out. Finance won't freak out as well because it's you won't be buying capex that might depreciate over the next few months. Instead, like what Chanwai said, um, um, you have a great OPEX model. You can charge by the hour, by the month. So it's predictable. You know what's exactly needed. Plus, it's scalable. For example, if you have a power user, then you suddenly buy a consumer laptop, it's just going to throw it back at you, right? So you can just easily increase the compute, the memory, everything, all the provisioning is just so easy. So again, I've been saying yes and yes and yes. So I will say it again, yes. In hindsight, I do it again, and I would probably recommend to everybody watching, just do it, guys. It's just gonna make your lives easier.
Amen,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I completely agree. So just to shift that, Ernie, very quick follow up question because we need to wrap up. Shifting it to the BPO industry and how do you think what are these challenges that BPOs will face when they move to the cloud, and how
Oh,
can they overcome those challenges?
okay. So a bit of trivia. I used to work in two BPOs years ago, 10 years ago. So first challenge for anybody, actually, not just BPOs, would be where to start. Okay, where do you start? Okay, and what's interesting in this session is the easiest way to start is actually um, the lower end fruit, the easy to pick fruits, right? The quick wins. So instead of me trying to move, let's say, a legacy ECC SAP 6 implementation to the cloud, I'm not going to do that. It's going to take months of planning. I'm going to go for the quick wins, make my customers, my users happy very quickly. AWS Workspaces is actually a great example to go into the cloud. WFE, get into it very quickly. You'll understand the economics, you'll understand the provisioning, the technical aspects of it, the challenges. And then when you go to top management, it's so easy to create a story if you really want to go to an extensive cloud journey. So I don't know if you heard that. It was the thunder.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
uh, so the journey itself is very complex. Like you'll have to look at your application landscape, and then you get to choose where do I start. So We do have a company called Cascadio. I think it was mentioned earlier. So you'll need guidance in how you'll be doing your journey to cloud. So that's one of the things that you need guidance, being able to do it correctly, not making mistakes. So the challenges would be really around coming up with a holistic plan instead of looking at transactional things. So from if I were to talk to another CIO and say, hey, dude, you gotta create a nice plan. Make sure that aside from just moving stuff to the cloud, make sure you're moving the correct stuff at the right time with the right people and the right tools. So that's really it.
All right. What a way to end. Sorry, was anyone?
No, I just thought maybe it's also good to to think about fostering the right culture. I think that's very important, and obviously having the right executive for business sponsorship. Yeah, I usually think that these are two key elements, but yeah, I fully agree Ernie's points. Yeah.
All right, awesome. I think what a way to end our panel discussion. Thank you everyone for sharing your insights and your experience. And thank you everyone for joining our webinar. Feel free to reach out to your account managers. I will also be part of that discussion as part of the cloud solutions management team. So if you have any unanswered questions, definitely I can help answer them. And we appreciate your feedback as well and comments. So before you go, please don't forget to answer our feedback form. The first 20 respondents will receive a 0917 electronic voucher, which you can redeem at 0917lifestyle.com. So the code will be sent to your email address that you use after you submit the form. So remember, you have to submit or you have to answer the form first. And the form can be accessed by the QR code that is being shown on the screen or by clicking the link that will appear when you exit the webinar. So again, thank you again, everyone, for attending. This has been Francis Arvenilio of Globe Business. Everyone, please stay safe and have a good night.